Motivation comes and goes. Meetings explode your calendar. Notifications slice your attention into fragments. And at the end of the day, you can honestly say you were busy. Yet you can't point to what you actually finished. That's the real time management problem. Not lack of effort, but lack of closure. Today, I want to give you a time management system that works even when your motivation is inconsistent, your schedule is chaotic, and you feel like your day disappears without real progress. This is not a wake up at 5 a.m. speech. It's a practical execution system built around short, focused sprints, a simple tracker, and one rule that changes everything. One sprint equals one measurable outcome. If you can do that repeatedly, your time management stops being a theory and becomes a scoreboard you can actually win. Most people don't have a time problem. They have an execution problem. The day is full of motion, but not enough completion. You start the day with good intentions, then an email pulls you, a message interrupts you, a meeting shows up. You open a tab to quickly check something, and suddenly, it's evening. You were active, but you didn't ship. That's why traditional time management advice fails. It assumes you can control your environment. Most people can't. So the goal is not to control everything. The goal is to create small protected blocks of execution that still work inside an unpredictable day. Here's the model. You will run your day in sprints. A sprint is a short time-boxed block, typically 25 minutes, where you work on only one thing. Not a category like work, not a vague intention like make progress, but one outcome that can be finished or clearly moved forward within that time. Then you take a short break, log what you accomplished, and set the next sprint goal. This is the entire system. It's simple on purpose because complex systems collapse under real life. The first reason sprints work is that they reduce the hardest part of time management: starting. Starting is expensive. When a task feels big, your brain delays. When a task is time-boxed, the brain accepts it. 25 minutes is psychologically survivable. You can tolerate discomfort for 25 minutes. This is why sprints beat willpower. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to start the countdown. The second reason sprints work is that they prevent task sprawl. Most tasks expand to fill the available time, not because they require it, but because you keep switching context. You open an email, then you remember something else, then you research, then you polish. In a sprint, the container limits the sprawl. You do what matters most inside the time window and stop. That forces prioritization. And prioritization is what time management was supposed to be. But most people never implement it. Now, let's define the one rule clearly. One sprint equals one measurable outcome. That means the sprint goal must be written as an output. For example, write the first draft of section 1, or fix one bug and add one test, or send 5 follow-ups, or prepare 3 bullet points for the meeting, or review 10 pages and write a summary. If you can't measure it, it's not a sprint goal. This single rule prevents you from pretending you worked. It creates honesty. Before you run your first sprint, do a 2-minute setup. Close anything you don't need. Silence notifications. Put your phone away. Keep water nearby. Then write the sprint goal in one line. Just one line. This matters. If you don't write the goal, your sprint becomes a wandering session. And wandering sessions are where time goes to die. Let's talk about the structure of a day using sprints. You don't need 8 hours of deep work. Most people can't do that anyway. You need a small number of high-quality blocks. For many professionals, 4 sprints per day is enough to change your life. 4 sprints is about 1 hour and 40 minutes of real output. That sounds small until you realize most people produce far less true output than that because the rest is fragmented by switching. 4 clean sprints per day is a massive advantage. A simple day plan looks like this. Sprint 1 is your highest leverage task, the one thing that moves the needle. Sprint 2 is the second most important deliverable. Sprint 3 is admin batching, emails, scheduling, follow-ups, paperwork. Sprint 4 is learning, improvement, or a personal project. This is just a template. The point is not the exact order. The point is that you intentionally decide what your sprints are instead of letting the day decide for you. Now, a question many people ask is, what about meetings and interruptions? Here is the answer. Meetings are fixed blocks, so don't fight them. Treat them like immovable terrain. Your sprints are the movable pieces. You place sprints before meetings, between meetings, and after meetings. If your day is meeting heavy, shorten sprint length. 10 or 15 minutes still works. A short sprint is not a failure. It's an adaptation. The rule stays the same. One sprint equals one outcome. Next, we need to talk about distractions, because time management breaks on distractions. The sprint system uses a distraction protocol. It's very simple. If you drift, you don't judge yourself. You capture the distraction in one line, literally write it down, and return to the task. Your brain relaxes because it knows the thought is stored. If you feel stuck, you do a micro step for 2 minutes. Open the file, create the outline, highlight the key points, write the first sentence. Micro steps break paralysis. The goal is not to feel great. The goal is to keep movement inside the sprint. Breaks matter more than people think. After each sprint, take 5 minutes. Stand up, stretch, water, and no scrolling. Scrolling destroys the recovery effect of the break. It replaces rest with stimulation. Your brain comes back noisier. Use the break to reset physically, then use the last 30 seconds of the break to set your next sprint goal. This one habit eliminates the friction of starting again. Now, I want to introduce the second half of the system, the tracker. Time management fails when there is no feedback. If you do not track outcomes, you can't improve and you can't stay consistent. A tracker can be extremely simple. Columns like sprint number, goal, distractions, completed, and notes. That's enough. Each sprint, you write the goal. Mark whether social or email distracted you, mark whether you completed the sprint goal, and write one note about what you produced. This takes less than 30 seconds, but it gives you something most people don't have. Evidence. Evidence changes behavior. When you can see that you completed 12 sprints this week, you build confidence. When you see that most of your failed sprints were interrupted by email, you stop pretending and you redesign your environment. Time management becomes engineering, not self-blame. This is how you use the tracker to improve your week. At the end of each day, count how many sprints you completed. Don't overthink it. Just count. At the end of the week, review your notes and find patterns. Are you failing in the same task category repeatedly? Are you setting vague sprint goals that can't be finished? Are you scheduling deep work sprints in a time window where you always get interrupted? Your tracker will tell you. Then you adjust next week's plan accordingly. Let's talk about setting the right sprint goals, because goal quality determines success. The best sprint goals are small, clear, and finishable. They start with verbs and end with an output. For example, draft 2 paragraphs, fix 1 issue, send 3 messages, create a list of 10, review and annotate 5 pages, prepare 3 slides. The worst sprint goals are vague. Work on project, plan my week, improve my resume, think about strategy. Those are not goals. Those are categories. Convert categories into one concrete deliverable per sprint. Now, what if you don't finish your sprint goal? That's fine. You log what you did and you adjust the next sprint goal to be smaller. If you miss 2 sprints in a row, your goals are too large or your environment is too interruptive. Shrink the goal and shrink the sprint length. Time management is not about pushing harder. It's about designing for reality. A common mistake is trying to sprint on 10 different priorities in one day. Don't do that. Your brain pays a switching tax every time you change context. Instead, cluster similar tasks. For example, batch all communication tasks into one sprint, batch planning tasks into one sprint, batch deep work into 1 or 2 sprints. You'll feel less scattered because you are reducing the number of mental gear changes. Now, I want to give you a simple sprint menu you can reuse. For work sprints, examples include writing a section of a document, preparing 3 bullet points for a meeting, implementing 1 feature slice, fixing 1 bug, reviewing 1 pull request, designing 1 screen, creating 1 test plan, or summarizing a customer issue. For life sprints, examples include cleaning 1 area for 25 minutes, handling 1 admin task like bills, planning meals for the week, doing a workout, reading and taking notes, or working on a personal project. The system does not care what the task is. It only cares that you convert time into outcomes. Let's also address energy, because time management is really energy management. Some sprints require deep concentration. Some require low effort. So match sprint types to your energy levels. If you have high energy in the morning, place deep work sprints there. If you slump in the afternoon, use that time for admin sprints. This isn't laziness, it's alignment. Most people burn out because they try to force deep work during low energy windows and then blame themselves when it fails. Now, if you want to make this system stick, you need a daily minimum. A minimum is non-negotiable. For most people, the best minimum is 1 sprint per day. Just 1. Even on bad days. Because consistency is built by never skipping 2 days in a row. 1 sprint keeps the identity alive. It keeps the chain unbroken. And once you start, it often becomes 2. Here is a simple challenge you can do starting today. For the next 7 days, do 4 sprints per day on weekdays and 1 sprint per day on weekends. Write the sprint goal before you start. Log the result after you finish. No exceptions. By day 7, you will have data. You will know what tasks you avoid, what distracts you, and what you actually produce. That's the point. You are building a feedback loop. If you want to use tools to make this even easier, you can. A timer reduces the need to watch the clock. A tracker makes logging effortless. If you have a Google Sheet sprint timer, you can start, pause, reset, log goals, and print your weekly progress. Tools don't create discipline, but they remove friction. And friction is the silent killer of good habits. Finally, I want you to remember this. Time management is not about controlling every minute. It's about creating reliable blocks of outcome. If you can do that, your confidence rises, your anxiety drops, and your progress becomes visible. Start with 1 sprint today. Make the goal small. Finish it. Log it. Then do it again tomorrow. That's how you build a life where your days don't disappear. If you want, comment with your sprint goal for today in 1 line. Keep it measurable. And after you finish, come back and comment, "Done." That simple public loop, goal then completion, will train your brain that execution is the default, not the exception.